Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the previous videos, we have discussed the steady state model of the induction motor in detail. The equivalent circuit of the induction motor in steady state is shown in front of you. It consists of a stator resistance, the rotor resistance, the actual rotor resistance and the resistance equivalent to the mechanical load, and the magnetization branch of the induction motor. The steady state model and the equivalent circuit that have been developed in the earlier lectures are useful for studying the performance of the machine in steady state. This means that all the electrical transients are neglected during load changes and stator frequency variations. Stator frequency variation is there in the application, for example, the variable speed drives, because you change the speed of the induction motor by changing the frequency, that is by changing the synchronous speed, which is given as 120 F by P. So the variable speed drives are converter fed from finite sources. You use inverter circuits along with the sources to provide power to your induction motor at required voltage and at required frequency. So you have the switches, you have the filters in your circuit, and due to the switching operation and the filters which are there, maybe the active filters, maybe the passive filters, there are sudden changes in the circuit in the operation. And in order to study those rapid changes, the variation because of frequency and the variation because of the load changes, the steady state circuit or steady state model is not sufficient. So we need to evaluate the dynamics of the converter fed variable speed drives to assess the performance of the induction motor, performance of the inverter circuit or the converter circuits which are used to provide power to your induction motor. So to determine the detailed analysis of the induction motor when you have the variable voltage and the variable frequency, that is a drive fed induction motor, we develop the dynamic model which considers the instantaneous effects of varying voltages, currents, stator frequency and the torque disturbances. So in this video we will discuss the detailed two-phase model or the dynamic model of the induction motor. The dynamic model of the induction motor is derived by using two-phase motor in the direct and the quadrature axis. So this approach is desirable because of the conceptual simplicity obtained with two sets of windings, one on the stator and one on the rotor, and the equivalence between the three-phase and the two-phase machine model is derived from the simple observation and the approach that we have already discussed in the last lecture, that is using the transformations. We can use the Clark transformation, we can use the Clark transformation and its different variants to represent our three-phase motor into two-phase system or in the DQ system. So now let's look at the two-phase induction motor model that is shown in front of you. Let's consider that we have D and the Q axis. These are of the stator, and let's suppose that we have the two windings. One winding is at the D axis, the other winding is at the Q axis, right? And we have the rotor which is rotating. Let's suppose that the rotor winding is also of two phase. One phase is shown over here, the other phase is shown over here along the beta axis. Alpha and the beta, they are representing the rotor axis, and the D and Q axis in this diagram are representing the stator windings. We have two stator windings and two rotor windings placed at the respective axis. How you can translate from ABC to DQ or alpha beta, we have discussed the transformations in the last lecture. So you can refer to those videos and you can translate from ABC frame of reference to DQ frame of reference or to the alpha beta frame of reference, that is basically representing the two phases, right? So two-phase induction motor model is shown in front of you. Here we are going to make certain assumptions to simplify our analysis. The first assumption is that we have the uniform air gap we have the balanced windings, we have the sinusoidally distributed windings. Inductance versus rotor position is sinusoidal. What that means? It means if this winding, rotor winding is rotating, right, definitely it's the rotating moving part, and the stator winding is fixed, so the inductance will vary sinusoidally because of the variation of the flux linkage with the stator winding of the rotor winding. The inductance is going to change, and that is going to change in the sinusoidal way. There will be no saturation and there will be no parametric variation. So these are our assumptions. With these assumptions, we will analyze the two-phase induction motor model in detail, and then we will develop the dynamic model of the induction motor. Right? Okay. So now let's write down the voltage equation for this two-phase induction motor. Okay, just consider this diagram. Your stator axis is this one, D and the Q axis, and for the time being I am going to consider that they are stationary, they are not rotating, so the speed of this stator axis is 0. However, our rotor is rotating, and it is rotating with the speed omega r, which is equal to theta r. And what is theta r? Theta r is basically the angle between the d axis and the alpha axis of your rotor. So rotor winding is being considered along these two axes. These are the rotor axes, right? We are going to call it alpha and the beta axis, and the rotor windings are shown over here. So over here, just look at the voltage, right? This is the V alpha, because we are considering the alpha axis of the rotor. So the voltage over here will be considered as V alpha, and let's suppose that the current is I alpha, that is going into this winding, right? And over here the beta winding is there, second phase winding of the rotor, and the voltage across this winding is, let's suppose, V beta, and the current in this winding is I beta, right? So we will always mark the polarity like that, plus on this side, on the outer side, and minus on the inner side. That you can also observe over here. And from the positive terminal, we will assume that the current is entering into this winding. And this frame of reference is rotating with the speed omega r. Rotor is rotating, and the rate of change of this angle with respect to the stator, that is basically the speed of your rotor. Theta r is the angle between the stator frame of reference and the rotor frame of reference. The stator frame of reference is the D and the Q axis, right? So in this we are going to assume the two-phase representation of the stator. So this is the winding, you can say the D axis winding, having the voltage VDS, and the current through this one is IDS, right? This is the D axis winding of your stator. Similarly, over here you can see a winding is shown. The voltage across this one is VQS, and the current through this one is IQS, that is the Q axis current of the stator, and over here IDX, D axis current of the stator, right? And let's suppose that the number of turns are over here are T1, right? Okay, now let's write down the voltage equation. The voltage in the Q axis winding of your induction motor, two-phase induction motor. So it will be having certain internal resistance. Let's suppose that is equal to RQ. So when this current IQ is going to flow through that, there will be a voltage drop. So IQS into RQ. This is the resistive voltage drop, right? Then the back EMF because of this inductor. This inductor is, let's suppose, LQQ, Q axis inductance of the stator winding. So that will be equal to, the voltage across this inductor will be equal to L into di by dt, and the current is IQS. So LQQ into D, derivative of the IQS, right? Because of its own inductance, the flux of the Q axis linked with the flux of linked with itself, Q axis. Okay, another voltage in this winding will be because of the flux linkage of the D axis with the Q axis. So let's suppose that is LQD, inductance between Q axis and the D axis. Q axis is this one, D axis is this one. The flux linkage, if there is in between, so there will be an inductance. Let me call that LQD, and because of the variation of the current over here, that is IDS, a voltage will be induced in this winding. So this voltage is represented by this term LQD into derivative of IDS. That is the voltage in this winding because of the flux linkage from here. Okay, another voltage that will be there in this winding, because your rotor is also rotating and it has the current, it has the flux. That flux is going to link with this winding of this winding interaction with the q axis, and similarly the beta axis winding interaction with the q axis. So what will be that voltage? So the inductance between q axis and the alpha axis, from here, this one is the q axis winding, this is one is the alpha. Let's suppose that is LQ alpha, and because of the variation of the current in this alpha axis winding, that is I alpha, so rate of change of current di by dt, di alpha by dt into LQ alpha will give you the voltage induced in this winding because of this winding. Now considering this one, so the inductance between this beta axis and the q axis is LQ beta, and whenever the current is going to change over here, that will cause the induction of the voltage because of the flux linkage of this winding with the q axis. So that is given by this term. So q axis voltage, the voltage across this q axis winding is dependent on the five terms. One is the resistive voltage drop, the second one is the induced EMF in the q axis because of the inductance of itself, then the induced EMF because of the inductance of the D winding and the current variation in the D axis winding, then the voltage induced because of the alpha axis current and the alpha axis inductance, and the voltage because of the beta axis. So these are the five terms, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, which are responsible for the voltage across the q axis winding. Similarly, if we talk about the VDS, the voltage across this winding, that will be equal to the RD into IDS, this term, then the induced EMF because of the q axis interaction with this one, so that will be LDQ into derivative of IQS, then the induced EMF because of the self inductance LDD into derivative of IDS, then the induced EMF because of the alpha axis interaction with the D axis, so LD alpha into di by dt into I alpha, and then the interaction of the beta axis winding with this one, so LD beta into derivative of I beta, right? Now considering V alpha, the voltage across this winding, so again the first term will be I alpha into R alpha, the second one will be L alpha in Q, means the Q axis interaction with this one, into the derivative of IQS. The variation of the current in this circuit will cause the induced EMF in the alpha axis winding, so that is given by this one. Then the interaction of the alpha axis with the D axis, the EMF induced in this winding because of the variation of this, so that is represented by this term L alpha D into derivative of IDS. Then considering the induced EMF because of the self inductance and the variation of the current in this winding I alpha, so L alpha alpha representing the inductance of the alpha axis winding and di by dt of the alpha axis, and then taking the effect of the beta axis variation in the alpha axis winding, so that will be equal to L alpha beta into derivative of I beta. Similarly, for the beta axis winding, you can say IB into R beta. The current in this winding is IB and the resistance over here, let's suppose R beta. Then taking the effect of the Q axis, first of all, L beta Q into DIQS, because the IQS is the current over here. Then the beta axis variation in the D axis, right? So L beta D, or you can say D axis variation, effect of D axis variation in this one, so that is given by this one, the mutual inductance between the phase B beta and the phase D or the D axis, and the current in the IDS. And then the variation in beta axis because of alpha axis, so L beta alpha into di alpha by dt, and then the variation or the voltage in the beta axis because of the variation of the current over the same axis, so L beta beta into di beta by dt. So we have these four voltage equations for this four windings of the stators and the rotors, two phase induction machine, two windings for the stator and the two windings for the rotor. So now these four equations, those we have written over here, can be written like this. This is basically a compact form of that one. So what it is this, just compare this line, this one with this one, right? So IRQ into IQS, the first term, then we are just representing this derivative with this symbol P, right? So derivative of LQQ IQS, LQQ is the constant term, basically the derivative is of IQS. Okay, so this term is represented like that, and both are related to the term IQS, the current IQS. Then taking this part, right, so this is LQD, it can be written like that, derivative of LQD into IDS. And similarly this term can be written as derivative of LQ alpha into I alpha, and this one can be written as derivative LQ beta into I beta. So we are just writing in the compact form. P is representing, this small p is representing the derivative operation. So above four equations can be written like this. Okay, now let's talk about the inductances, that how inductances are going to vary. Alpha alpha, first of all, alpha x is inductance and the beta x is inductance. These are the inductances of the rotor, so we are going to represent them LRR. Those will be equal because we are considering the balanced winding. So number of turns over here and the number of turns over here, the winding structure will be exactly same as we have the balanced structure. We have assumed the balanced structure. So L alpha alpha and L beta beta will be considered as LRR, rotor self inductances, right? Rotor inductances are being represented by this term LRR. Similarly, the inductance of this winding, that is LDD, and the inductance of this winding, that is LQQ, that will be considered as simply the stator inductance LS. Okay, now what is the inductance, the mutual inductance between alpha and beta? From alpha to beta, what is the mutual inductance? As you can see over here, these two are orthogonal, those are perpendicular to each other. So any variation over here will not be reflected over the beta axis. So mutual inductance between alpha and the beta axis will be 0. So L alpha beta or L beta alpha, that will be equal to 0 because the two axes are orthogonal. Similarly, if you look at the inductance between d axis and the q axis, LDQ and LDQ or LQD, that will be equal to 0 because those are orthogonal, and any variation of this one along this one will not be considered and will be 0 because these are the orthogonal one, right? So L alpha alpha, that is the self inductance of the this axis, that is equal to the rotor inductance LRR, or of the beta, those are same. Similarly LDD and LQQ are equal to LS. However, L alpha beta, that is equal to L beta alpha, that is equal to 0, and LDQ and LQD, those will be equal to 0 because the beta and alpha axes are orthogonal and D and Q axes are orthogonal, they are perpendicular to each other. And then RS, the rotor resistance has been considered, is equal to RQ and that is equal to RD, and the rotor resistance, that is R alpha and R beta, that we have considered over here, RQ and then RD and R alpha and the R beta. So R alpha and R beta are of the rotor side and will be represented as RRR, rotor resistance, and the stator resistance, Q and D axis resistances represent the stator resistance, so those will be considered as RS. Okay, now what about the inductance between alpha and the D axis or D and the alpha axis? Just consider that this axis is somewhere over here at certain instant of time. This is your alpha axis and this is your beta axis, and at certain other instant of time the alpha axis moves over here and the beta axis moves over here because it is rotating and rotating with the speed omega r, that is equal to theta r dot, where theta r is the angle between alpha axis and the d axis, right? So if your alpha axis is over here and the beta axis is over here, when the alpha axis is aligned with the d axis, so what you will have, you will have this winding, the alpha axis winding over here, right? So you have v alpha and the I alpha, and this one is like that. So whole of this flux will link with the flux of the d axis winding, or the alpha and the d axis flux will be maximum. But as this alpha winding will be moving away from the d axis winding, the flux linkage will be reduced, and once this alpha winding reaches over here, right, this is the situation that the beta axis is reached over here and the alpha axis is over here. So the flux that is linking from here to here is going to be zero. It means you have the maximum flux linkage when the alpha axis winding is at this position, right? So basically it is going to follow the cosine function. We assumed that, if you remember, we made an assumption that the inductance versus rotor position, this is the rotor position because rotor is changing the position, so the inductance variation will be sinusoidal. We made that assumption. So over here, when the alpha axis winding is over here, you have the maximum. So cos of theta r, when the theta r is 0, cos of 0, so this is going to be 1. We have the maximum linkage of this winding with this one, so maximum inductance. And when this winding is going to reach to this position, the flux linkage is going to become 0, right, because they are going to become orthogonal over here, perpendicular to each other. So over here, when the cos theta r is 90, so cos of 90 is going to be 0. So we can model it with the cosine function. So LSR, as we have seen, that alpha d is the inductance between rotor and the stator, okay, or stator and the rotor, right? So LSR is representing the maximum value of this mutual inductance into cos of theta r. So when you are at this axis, your winding is over here, you have the maximum mutual inductance. But as it is going to change its position, the rotor is changing because rotor winding is assumed to be rotating, so this mutual inductance will be decreasing, and over here it is going to become 0, and then when it will be over here, it will be having the negative effect, means opposite voltage will be induced because of this position somewhere else in the circuit. And similarly, it will be changing the sign according to the cosine function. So L alpha d and L d alpha are given by this equation at LSR into cos of theta r. Now let's look at L beta d, that is the inductance between beta axis and the d axis. So beta axis is this one, right, beta axis is this one, and the d axis is this one. So now considering this point as the reference, when alpha is aligned over here and the beta is aligned over here, alpha winding is over here and the beta winding is over here. So when alpha is cos of theta r, because it is fully aligned with this d axis, maximum flux linkage, at that time what is the induced EMF or the flux linkage of this winding with the beta? That is 0, because both are orthogonal at this point, perpendicular to each other. So this flux over here will be the sinusoidal function, and that's why the inductance will be sinusoidal, because sine of 0, because considering this one as the angle for the consideration. So when theta r is 0, cos of theta r is maximum, sine of theta r will be 0. So we are going to model the inductance of the beta axis linked with the d axis with the sinusoidal function. So LSR is the inductance between stator and the rotor, that is basically beta d or d beta, right, the magnitude of that one, the maximum value of that one, into sine of theta r. Sine of theta r is basically giving us an information that how the flux linkage of the beta winding will be changing with the d axis winding when the rotor frame will be rotating at the speed omega r, right? So this, the rate of change of this theta r will be the omega r. So alpha d, L alpha d, L d alpha, and L beta d and L d beta. Similarly, now looking for alpha and the q. So we are looking for this one, alpha and the q axis winding linked with that one, or the effect over q axis because of this alpha axis winding. So again, considering the reference point, let's suppose the alpha is over here and the beta is over here, this is the reference point when the theta r is going to be 0. So what about the effect of alpha axis over q axis? They are perpendicular, so they should be 0. and when it is going to rotate and when the theta r is going to become 90 degree, at that time the beta winding will be over here and the alpha winding will be over here. So this is the theta r will be equal to 90 degree. The theta r is 90 degree, so the two windings alpha and the q axis are aligned. It means maximum flux linkage. So how to model between Q and alpha? When the theta r is 90 degree, there should be the maximum flux linkage. For that we will be using the sine function. Sine 90 is maximum 1. So L alpha Q and LQ alpha will be equal to LSR into sine of theta r, right? And then how to represent the interaction between beta axis and the q axis? Beta axis is this one and the q axis is this one, and if we look at the standard position, that is this one, theta r is going to be 0 over here and alpha winding is assumed over here and the beta winding is assumed over here. And what is the angle between beta axis and the q axis? That is 180 degree, and because of that you can see this negative sign over here. Why? Because this winding is exactly opposite to that one. The flux of this one beta axis will be linking with the q axis. Linkage will be maximum because they are aligned, but will be of opposite polarity. Why? Because we have the positive on this side, and for that if you look at the positive is on this side, so when it will be over here the positive will be over here. So the negative sign is representing the opposite polarity, and when they are along this axis there is the maximum flux linkage because they are along the same axis. So cos of theta r, cos of 180 is going to be -1, right? So that minus sign is over here, or we can say the variation is cosine, and but it is opposite with respect to the other winding, the d-axis winding. Okay, so the inductances between the two frame of references are basically varying, and those are varying sinusoidally. The variation between alpha d or the d alpha is cosine, beta d and the d beta is the sinusoidal function, alpha q and q alpha is the sinusoidal function, beta q and q beta is the cosine function with the opposite sign. Now we are going to use these definitions of the inductances, those we have seen. The inductance, you can say the mutual inductances, mutual between the two frame of references, and over here are the self inductances, this one, and the self inductances is one frame of reference. Alpha beta and beta alpha will be 0, dq and qd will be equal to 0. So you can say it is within the frame of reference, and that is 0. These are the self inductances and are considered as LRR and LS. And the mutual inductances between two frame of references, that is between alpha beta and the dq, those are sinusoidal functions. So now we have seen this set of equation, 4 voltage equations, one for the q axis winding, d axis, other for the d axis winding, then v alpha and the v beta. So now we are going to update these inductances over here. We have defined these inductances, what these are, right? So what about LDQ? LDQ, that is the inductance within the DQ frame of the reference, and these two are orthogonal, D and Q, like that. If the D axis is considered over here, Q axis will be over here 90 degrees, so this is going to be 0. So this inductance is 0. Similarly, if you look at LDQ, this will be equal to 0, and alpha beta, that will be equal to 0, and beta alpha, that will be equal to 0. So these are the inductances within one frame of reference, and they are going to be 0 because the two axes are orthogonal to each other. The inductance or the flux of one winding over one axis will not affect the flux of the other winding, will not link with the other winding. Okay, so this equation will be simplified, this set of equation, and now can be written like that. You can see the 0 over here, 0 over here, 0 over here, and 0 over here, right? So we can write it in the first of all, the first modification is that we have made, that we have considered LDQ, LDQ and the LB alpha and the alpha beta equal to 0. Next, what we are going to do, we are going to represent this LQ alpha like that, LSR into sine of theta r. We have seen that at LQ alpha from here, just look at that one. LQ alpha is LSR into sine of theta, where LSR is the mutual inductance between stator and the rotor, right? So we are going to now replace these inductances using the expressions we have defined. So LSR into sine of alpha. Similarly, this LQ beta, LSR into cos of theta r. Then considering this one, L alpha Q, LSR into sine of theta r. Then alpha D, that is LSR into cos of theta r, and so on. You can see all of these terms are updated, right? Only this term will not be updated. LQQ, that is equal to the LS, simply LS, because Q axis inductance linked with the Q axis, right? And RQ we have assumed equal to RS, stator resistance, so that is replaced by this one. And then coming toward this one, other terms, for example, this one LDD will be represented accordingly using the equations which we have seen above, that is equal to LS, right? So you can get this matrix by using the definitions for the inductances, those we have defined above. How the flux of one winding will be linked with the other, that will define how the inductance will vary between those two windings. Okay, now we can write down this voltage equation in the matrix form. So VQS, VDS, V alpha and the V beta, that you can see, this will define a column matrix like this. And IQS, IDS, then over here we have the I alpha and the I beta. So we are considering this column of IQS. So IQS over here, and then from here RS plus LS into P. P is representing the derivative of this IQS, right? Similarly over here LSR derivative into sine of theta r, you can also write LSR sine of theta r into derivative of the IQS. So writing all of these in the matrix form, so you are going to get this matrix for the voltages across the D axis and the Q axis winding, and the alpha axis and the beta axis winding, and those are related in terms of the IQS, IDS, I alpha and the I beta. And here are the relating terms, how the inductances are going to vary. Okay, now let's consider the Q axis and the D axis stator, that is this one, and the alpha beta, the rotor. The rotor is rotating. The rotor is not fixed. Your stator has been considered as static one, fixed one over here, but rotor is varying in this structure. So as the rotor is varying, that's why the flux linkage between alpha and the D is varying. The flux linkage between alpha and the Q is varying. The flux linkage between Q and the alpha axis is varying, and the flux linkage between Q and the beta axis is varying. That is the flux linkage between stator and the rotor. Those are varying as your rotor is in the rotating form. We have considered that this rotor is rotating at the speed omega r, that is equal to theta r, and the theta r is this one, derivative of this theta r. Now what we are going to do, we are going to convert this rotating winding into a fictitious stationary winding over the D and the Q axis. So we are just going to assume that it has some projected version that is always fixed along the Q axis, and it has some projected version that is always fixed over here. Or you can say we have two fictitious windings representing the rotor, and those windings are placed at the D and the Q axis. Let's suppose that the voltage across that fictitious winding is VDRR, that is representing the rotor variation along the D axis. And we have another fictitious winding that is placed at Q axis, that is representing the Q rotor effect over the Q axis, right? So now if we consider this one, how we can translate these rotating windings into two fictitious stationary windings which are considered at D and Q axis, representing the rotor disturbances or the rotor effects. So first of all, we will see that how the currents of these windings will be reflected. Over here we have the current I alpha, and over here we have the current I beta. So we have considered two fictitious windings over here. Those are fixed along the D and the Q axis. So the current over here is IDRR. So what this IDR will be there? It will be because of this beta axis and the alpha axis. Right, so we will be taking the projection of this beta axis along this d axis, and similarly we will be taking the projection of this alpha axis along this d axis. So the current I alpha over here, considering this angle theta r, what will be its projection along the d axis? This will be the cos of theta r into I alpha. So I alpha into cos of theta r is basically the projection of the I alpha along this axis. Then taking the projection of this I beta along the d axis, right? So how to find out that one? That will be equal to the current in this winding I beta into cos of this part, and that will be equal to this is pi by 2 minus theta r, so that will be equal to sine of theta r. So IB into sine of theta r will give us the projection of this I beta along this axis. This is I beta into sine of theta r, where theta r is this angle, right? And the projection of this I alpha along the d axis, this will be simply equal to I alpha into cos of theta r. So you can now represent that IDRR, that is the current in this winding, that is this one, that is equal to the component of I alpha along this axis and the component of the beta current along this axis, that is given by this expression IB sine of theta r and I alpha cos of theta r. So we have taken the projection of this one, this is I alpha cos of theta r, that is this one, and taking the projection of the beta current in this direction, so I beta into sine of theta r, so that will give you the current in this winding, that is IDRR. Similarly, now we are going to look for the current IQRR. So how to take that one? First of all, we will take the projection of this alpha along this one. So what that will be equal to? So that will be equal to sine of this angle, right? Sine of this angle. So I alpha into sine of theta r will give us the projection of this winding along the q axis, right? And then taking the projection of the current I beta along this axis. So what that will be equal to? So if this angle is theta r, this angle will also be theta r, right? So if you take the cosine, so you will get this projection, that is IB represented over here, but this is opposite with respect to this one. This axis has been considered. So that's why you can see the negative sign over here. Minus I beta into cos of theta r will give you the projection of this current IB along this axis, or basically along this axis now, you can see. So the opposite of this one is this one, so that will be considered as negative. So if you take the projection of this one over here, as this angle is theta r, this is I beta cos of theta r. So when you will shifting over here, this will be the minus IB into cos of theta r. So this is the projection of the beta current along the positive q axis, and the projection of I alpha along the positive q axis is I alpha into sine of this theta r. This is the angle. So this angle is over here, you can say theta r. So if you take the sine of this one, you will get this one, considering it the right angle triangle. So we have calculated IDRR and IQRR in this fixed winding, this winding, this one and this one. These are the fictitious fixed windings over the d axis and the q axis, and representing the effect of this alpha axis and the beta axis current variation. And now this set of equation can be written in the matrix form like this. So we can say that we can translate from alpha beta to IDQRR, ID axis and the q axis fictitious winding currents, the windings which are assumed static at the d and q axis of the stator. So how to get that one? If you have I alpha beta, you can convert them into IDQ at that axis by using this transformation matrix, that is T alpha beta, that is given by this matrix. So what is this IDQRR that is over here? That is basically the transpose of this matrix. This is IDQRR. Similarly, I alpha beta transpose will be I alpha beta, and then this T alpha beta, that is the transformation matrix, that is this one, that is cos of theta, sine of theta, sine of theta r minus sine of theta r. And if you take the inverse of this one, inverse of this matrix, you will get the same matrix. So it means it is symmetric and it's orthogonal as well, right? So T alpha beta is equal to T alpha beta inverse. That's the property that exists over here. So matrix is both orthogonal and the symmetric, this transformation matrix, and we have basically transformed from this alpha beta to this, right? And you can just visualize and you can compare it with the transformations we discussed in the last week, the different transformation, different variants of the Clark's transformation, Clark's transformation. So basically over here this is the Clark transformation. You have different variants of that one. So using that you can translate these varying windings, rotating frame of reference, into this stationary frame of reference, that is the D and the Q axis, representing the rotor effect along the D axis and the Q axis of the stator, right? So applying this transformation to the alpha and the beta axis of the rotor winding, you can find out the currents, you can find out the voltages along the D and Q axis of the stator, right? Okay, now let's represent this set of equation that we have already obtained, V alpha and I alpha I beta. So what we are basically going to do, we are going to apply the transformation over here, that I alpha I beta is translated in terms of IDRR and the IQRR. Similarly, if you want to transform voltages, so you will be having the same transformation, but over here we will be having V alpha, V beta, and this will be VDRR and VQRR. So you can apply the transformation over here to convert it into Q axis and the D axis fictitious winding voltages, and similarly these currents can be translated into that one. So when you will apply these transformation, these entries will be updated so that you can relate VQRR and IDRR. So if you translate them using this transformation and reflect those entries over here in these terms, and similarly if you translate this one into VDRR and the VQRR, so the updated voltage equation will be given by this one, right? So here you can see the matrix. I am not going to show you the minor details. I am just showing you the end result, that VQRR and the VDRR will be represented by this set of parameters when linked with the IQR and the IDRR, right? And what about these terms? Just look at this one. These are going to become 0, and if you come over here, that you can see over here, these were 0 and now this has become 0. Why? And this has become 0 because you have translated it now in terms of this was linked with I beta, but no, it's no more I beta, it is now IDRR linked with the VQS, and as these two are orthogonal, if you consider this one, this is the Q axis and this is the D axis, so you are considering the current of the D axis and you are looking the effect over the voltage of the Q axis. So what that should be, this is Q axis voltage, and over here when you translate it, it is in terms of IDRR, so that should be 0 because they are perpendicular to each other, and when they are perpendicular there will be no effect. So this term is going to become 0 and this term is going to become 0 as well, because VDS when linked with IQRR, because its translated version is IQRR, so this term is going to become 0, right? So that's why you can see the 0 and the 0 over here, and these terms are modified incorporating the effect of this transformation that we have seen over here. So theta r in this theta r is the position of the rotor alpha beta frame with respect to the dq, and its rate of change is the rotor speed. So theta r is the time derivation of the theta r, and it is equal to your rotor speed. Now we refer the rotor quantities to the stator side to make analysis simplified. This step removes the physical isolation and facilitates the corresponding stator and the rotor D and Q axis windings in becoming physically connected. Okay, so what this basically means, we have developed the transformation matrix. We are representing the rotating rotor along the D axis and the Q axis. Those are fixed at the stator, and we have represented the induced voltages Q axis, D axis, and the Q axis and the D axis rotor with the help of this matrix. Now we can have the different number of turns at the rotor and the stator, and you know that your induction motor structure is just like the transformer, and the impedances on the stator side can be referred to the rotor side, and the rotor side resistances can be referred to the stator side. Over here we are going to refer the rotor resistances over the what you can say over the stator side, and over the stator side the rotor resistance will be represented as Rr, and how it will be modified by the square of the turn ratio, that is A square. A is the stator effective turns per phase divided by the rotor effective turns per phase. So LRR in this equation over here we are using the rotor inductances, yes, over here LRR and LRR over here. Those were the resistances of the rotor along the rotor axis. Those were the alpha beta axis, and now we are going to refer them to the stator side. So we are referring them with the square of the turn ratio. So that is shown over here, at LRR is equal to A square into RR, LR is equal to A square into LRR. Similarly IQRR divided by A, you will get the equivalent of this IQRR on the stator side. Similarly IDRR reflected on the stator side, and VQRR reflected on the stator side, and VDRR reflected on the stator side. So what is A? A is the effective turn ratio from stator to the rotor, and just remember over here that we have translated this effect alpha and the beta effect in terms of these two fictitious windings which are there at the Q and the D axis. And once we have translated that one, now we are referring this IQRR on the stator side through the turn ratio, just like the transformers, because in actual machine there is no physical connection between the stator and the rotor. But for the analysis we are translating the rotor side towards the stator side by using the turn ratio of the stator to the rotor, right? So that is this A. So that is given as K omega 1 into T1, where T1 are the number of turns on the stator sides and T2 are the effective number of turns on the rotor side. So that is equal to A. And from your machine theory you must know that the magnetizing and the mutual inductances are given as like that. The magnetizing inductance it depends upon the number of turns of the winding. So if you look at for the stator side, so magnetizing inductance is proportional to the square of the turns, and similarly the mutual inductance is proportional to the product of the number of turns in two windings, T1 and T2. T1 you can see on the stator side and T2 on the rotor side. So the number of turns are very important because they determine how the inductance is going to, what is the magnitude of the inductance, right? Okay, so this A that we have assumed over, and what is this kWm? These are basically the winding constants. Those you must be familiar from the basic electrical machines course. So this A will be equal to K omega 1 by K omega 2 T1 by T2, that is taking this value. If I multiply and divide by T1, so I can write it like that, that it is T1 square and T1 into T2, and Basically, the purpose of this multiplication is that we can write it in terms of the inductance. So this can be written as Lm over Lsr, because this is proportional to the magnetizing inductance and this is basically the mutual inductance. So A can be written in terms of the magnetizing and the mutual inductance, and these two can be related with each other. Now with the help of this A, that is the effective turn ratio between stator and the rotor, right? Okay, now considering this, finally we can write down the voltage matrix equation like this: VQS, VDS, VQR and VDR, right? What is this? No, this is not VQRR, VDRR. We are translating them in terms of this VQRR and VDRR, translated in terms of VQ and VDR, refer to the stator side using this one. So these will be multiplied with A, right? And similarly we will be translating the currents by dividing them by A, and we will be updating these resistances and inductances using this expression. So the above voltage equation will be updated now, and will be written in terms of VQR, VDR, IQR and the IDR, and the resulting parameters in the transformation are like this. So this matrix helps us to translate IQS, IDS, IQR and IDR into VQS, VDS and VQR and VDR using this transformation matrix. But this model is in the stationary frame of reference because we have considered the effect of the rotor along the D and Q axis of the stator, and those were considered the fixed ones. So if I go back and look at the diagram, this is the D axis, this one is the Q axis, and we have reflected this alpha beta effect over this Q axis using this fictitious winding. I mean, similarly the effect of this alpha and beta along the D axis using this fictitious winding, that is fixed. So basically we have translated the induction motor model in terms of the stationary frame of reference, right? So this winding has been considered as stationary. This was moving with the speed 0. It was stationary. The rotor was moving with the speed omega r, but now when it is translated in terms of the fictitious windings over there, so what will be the speed? The rotor speed will be equal to 0. So you can say that we have we have demonstrated the effect of the or the model of the induction motor in the stationary frame of reference, that is fixed, that is not rotating, right? So this set of equation is representing the induction motor model in stationary frame of reference when D and Q axes are fixed, and your rotor is modeled in terms of the fictitious windings over D and the Q axis. Okay, now let's assume that we have the D and the Q axis that is fixed, but another set of the D and the Q axis, those are rotating now, and they are rotating at some speed, let's suppose omega c, and that is equal to theta c dot. And what is this theta c? Theta c is basically this one, the angle between this Q axis that is fixed, that is not moving, that is with the speed 0, and this Q axis that is moving with the speed omega c, right? So now just to concentrate, we have this set, this one D and the Q, those are fixed and their speed is equal to 0 because they are not moving, and we have considered our model in this frame of reference with the help of the above equation. And the other set of axes that we are going to consider now, that is this one, that is the rotating frame of reference, and rotating with the speed omega c, that is equal to theta c dot, where theta c is this angle or this angle. So we can say that this is the arbitrarily rotating frame of reference with any speed omega c. That may be the rotor speed, maybe the stator speed, some other speed, right? So we are basically now going to translate our this model of the induction motor that we have developed in the stationary frame of reference into an arbitrarily rotating frame of reference. So for that we need another transformation. We have the information in this stationary frame of reference, IDS, representing the stator current in the stationary frame of reference, and IQS is representing this stator current in the stationary frame of reference. And now how to convert it into the rotating frame of reference, that is rotating with the speed omega c, right? So how to get that one? We need a transformation matrix. and that transformation matrix we have already seen in the videos of the last week. So we can relate the current of the rotating frame of reference, that is with this superscript C, right, this one over here as well, IDS in the rotating frame of reference, arbitrarily rotating frame of reference with some speed, and this is in the stationary frame of reference. So the quantities in the stationary frame of reference, if you translate from rotating frame of reference to stationary frame of reference, so those will be representing like that you have the transformation matrix when multiplied with the quantities in the rotating frame of reference, you will get the quantities in the stationary frame of reference. So where this IQDS is basically the transpose of this matrix, and similarly this IQDS is this one. So this C is representing the arbitrarily frame of reference rotating with some speed omega c. So what is this transformation matrix? If you look at that one, so you are going to translate from here this q axis current in this q axis and d axis. So this is just like the transformations we have discussed in the last week. So you can refer to those videos and you can drive this transformation matrix when relating the quantities from over here rotating frame of reference to the stationary frame of reference with the help of this equation. You can look at the projection. Basically what you are going to do over here, you are finding IQS that will be equal to a projection of this IQS in rotating frame of reference over this one, and that will be done by looking at this angle theta c. You will be looking at the projection of this one, and similarly you will be looking for the projection of this one IDS using this angle theta c over this axis, and the sum of those one will give you the net IQS in the stationary frame of reference, and that is this one, that is your IQS in rotating frame of reference when multiplied with cos of theta c. You will get its projection along this one, so that is this part, and then sine of theta c, sine of this angle will give you the projection of this one along that one. So sum of these two is going to give you IQS in the IQS in the stationary frame of reference, and similarly you can translate the d axis. So this is our transformation matrix, that is relating or converting your arbitrarily rotating frame of reference into the stationary frame of reference. And if you want to go in reverse, what you will have to do, so for that you will can write this one, that IQDS in rotating frame of reference will be equal to this transformation matrix inverse into IQDS in stationary frame of reference. So if you have the quantities in the stationary frame, you can convert them into arbitrarily rotating frame of reference by taking the inverse of this transformation matrix, that is the inverse of this one. And what is the speed of this arbitrarily frame of reference? It is rotating, let's suppose, with the speed omega c, and that is equal to the derivative of the theta c, and the theta c is basically is this angle between the q axis or between the d axis, right? So similarly the rotor currents are transformed into arbitrary frame of reference using TC, and can be written like that. Over here we have seen for the stator how you can convert the, if you consider the stator, the stationary one, how you can convert them into the rotating frame of reference, or if you have considered this stator in the rotating frame of reference, how you can convert it into the rotating frame of reference. Same procedure can be applied to convert the quantities of the rotor side. If you consider the rotor as a rotating frame of reference, you can convert them into the stationary frame of reference, and the vice versa. So in this, the IQDR will be equal to IQR, and the IDR, Q axis rotor current, and the D axis rotor current. And what is this IQDRC? This is the quantities in the rotating frame of reference, so that will be IQR, rotor current in the rotating frame of reference of the q axis, and the d axis rotor current in the rotating frame of reference, right? So similarly you can write down the equation for the voltages, right, using the same transformation matrix, and VQS and VDS, these vectors are, or matrices are defined like this. Okay, now you can translate from rotating frame of reference to the stationary frame of reference, and vice versa with the help of this transformation. And we have considered one frame as the stationary frame, this one, and the other one is the rotating frame, right? So now what we are going to do, we are going to transform our voltage equation Y into the rotating frame of reference. What is Y? Y is this one. This was the motor model in the stationary frame of reference. All the axes were fixed. D and the Q axis of the stator were fixed, and the D and the Q axis of the rotor were fixed because the rotor was translated in terms of the stationary windings. Those were the fictitious windings along the D and the Q axis of the stator. So all of them are in the fixed frame of reference. Those are not rotating. Now we are going to translate them into an arbitrary frame of reference, which is rotating at speed omega c, right? So we will have to apply the transformation over all of these ones. So if we apply the transformation, so this matrix equation y, the voltage equation for the q axis and d axis of the rotor and the stator, now will be represented with the help of this matrix, right? So these quantities will be updated, all of these ones, compared with the previous one. And similarly over here, now you can see instead of using VQS, this superscript C, it is representing the quantities in the rotating frame of reference. Q axis in the rotating frame of reference, D axis in the rotating frame of reference, S is representing the stator, and the R is representing the rotor. The rotor quantities in the arbitrarily rotating frame of reference, right? And similarly, these are the currents in the rotating frame of reference. So if this is the case, so you will be getting these terms. Now over here, just look at this part. This omega c is the speed of arbitrarily frame of reference, right? And this term omega c minus omega r, this is basically the difference of the arbitrarily rotating frame of reference and the speed of your rotor omega r. Rotor is rotating at certain speed omega r. We first translated it in terms of the fixed fictitious windings, and then from there we have translated it in terms of the another rotating set that is rotating at omega c. So the difference of these two is basically this one. Just imagine, first of all, your rotor was rotating. You translated in terms of the fixed one along the D and Q axis of the stator, and then you are translating it back into a frame of reference that is rotating with the speed omega c. So the difference between these two speeds, omega c, the speed of the arbitrarily rotating frame of reference, and the omega r, the actual speed of the rotor, so that is the slip speed with respect to the frame of reference in which you are translating. You are translating in the frame of reference whose speed is omega c, and the actual speed was omega r. So with respect to that, we call it the slip speed in that frame of reference, right? Okay, so if you go back and look at this diagram, this frame of reference is rotating with the speed omega c, and over here the frame was fixed. So after translation into the rotating frame of reference, the voltage and the current equations will be related by this one. So you can do the simple derivation at your own end. You can modify all of those parameters. Those were shown over here in the equation y. So these parameters will be updated because we will be having the effect of these variations reflected by this transformation matrix in this equation y, right? And finally we will be getting this equation. So in this, omega r is equal to theta r dot, that is the actual rotor position, and the omega c, that is equal to theta c dot, that is the rate of change of the arbitrarily rotating frame of reference with respect to the fixed frame of reference, that is dq, right? So speed of the rotor is in electrical, that is radian per second, that is equal to omega r, and the speed of arbitrary frame of reference in radian per second, that is equal to omega c. And in this the IQS and the IDS are related with the IQDS in the stationary frame. This is the stationary frame, this is the rotating frame. So they are related by this transformation inverse matrix, and the rotating terms can be related with the fixed frame of reference by this transformation matrix. So what is this TC? This TC we have defined over here is this transformation matrix, right? So what is this? This is the set of equation that is representing the induction motor model in the rotating frame of reference, that is rotating with some arbitrary speed omega c, right? So now from where you are going to get these quantities, IQS, IDS, IQR, and the idea. So for that you can refer back to again the videos we discussed in the last week that were related to the transforms. So using the Clark transformation you can convert from ABC frame of reference to some rotating frame of reference, and this with the induction motor model in the rotating frame of reference we discussed in the last slide. So just look over here, A, B and C, ABC frame of reference, and what is this Q and D? These are the rotating frame of reference, arbitrarily rotating frame of reference, arbitrary frame of reference, rotating with the speed omega c, and here is the angle theta c. So this is basically the third variant of the Clark transformation that we discussed in the last lecture, and applying that transformation you can translate A, B, C parameters of your induction motor into this rotating frame of reference, right? So the transformation matrix, if you remember, was this one when you are translating from ABC to rotating frame of reference. So this was the equation that IQDO in rotating frame of reference will be obtained by multiplying this transformation matrix with the quantities in ABC frame of reference, where ABC frame of reference is representing this IAS, IBS, ICS current, or in terms of voltage VAS, VBS or VCS. When multiplied with this transformation matrix you will get its equivalent in the Q and D frame of reference that is rotating with certain speed omega c. And you can do the reverse as well, and you can find out if you have the quantities in the DQ frame of reference that is rotating with the speed omega c, you can translate them into ABC frame of reference by taking the inverse of this matrix, and the inverse of this matrix is given by this equation, right? So in this way you can you can say the first step is that you can translate from ABC to QDO. Okay, what is O over here? This is the zero sequence component. If you remember from the Clark transformation that we discussed in the previous videos, just to make the matrix inversible we consider the zero sequence components along with this QD. In a balanced system this zero sequence component will be 0, right? So okay, so first of all you are going to translate from ABC to DQ or QDO, because we are using the third variant of the Clark transformation, so we will represent it with QDO, and that is rotating with the speed omega c, and this is our arbitrary frame of reference as we discussed in the last slide. So we are going to convert it into that one, and then our motor will be represented in that arbitrary frame of reference. So we can use these transformations to represent our induction motor in arbitrary frame of reference. If this theta c is going to become 0, right, and we see that this q axis and the d axis are fixed, those are over here. So if the theta c is going to be 0, q axis is aligned with the phase A, and we say that this d and q axis is not rotating, they are fixed, let's suppose. So in stationary, then it will become the stationary frame of reference, and in that this transformation matrix is very simple. This will be considered, this theta c will be considered as 0, and all of these are going to becomes the what we say, the constants. So this transformation will be represented like that, right? For a balanced system we know that IAS, IBS and ICS, they are going to be 0, so the zero sequence current that is 1/3 of that one, that will be 0 for a balanced system. So for stationary frame of reference the transformation matrix will be like this, but for if your frame is rotating, then you will have to consider that what is the variation at which rate this frame is changing, and accordingly you will have to find out the IQS and the IDS in the rotating frame of reference. So let's summarize this video. We conclude this video that we have discussed that how we can represent the induction motor in different frame of reference, in the stationary DQ frame of reference or in the rotating frame of reference. Basically this model is the dynamic model of your induction motor, you can say, in the rotating frame of reference, because it will be reflecting the changes in the speed in the rotor or in the stator, or because of the frequency or because of the load. So the dynamic model considers the instantaneous effects of varying voltages, currents, stator frequency and the torque disturbances. The equation for the torque disturbance will be derived in the upcoming videos. So this gives us the detailed insight of the motor. And in the upcoming videos, we will also establish the power relationship between the ABC and the DQ frame of reference in the different condition. And let's summarize this video that we have discussed the induction motor model in the stationary frame of reference, in the rotating frame of reference, and in arbitrarily rotating frame of reference. And we have used the transformations, those we have discussed, that is the Clark and the Park transformation, in order to achieve these transformations. So that's all from this video. Thank you very much.